Good evening. Guess what? We're going to rock and roll. It's Friday, right? So thank God it's Friday. We got a good lineup this evening. And as we oftentimes say, this is the serious version of serious matters happening in Guyana. And we want to be able to, at the end of this hour, to ensure that you have a better understanding as to what's happening in the country and also what the folks in the opposition can do to ensure that they constructively take on the corrupt installed PPP regime. So share the link, spread the word. We'll be right back. J.R. Crawford with us. Duncan is with us, a different Duncan, mind you. Onyx Duncan. He's with us this evening. Another guest should have been with us, but he pulled out. We're going to tell you who's that guest that pulled out. I don't know why, but he should be on next week. We'll be back with Straight Up. Good evening to all of you.
This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them dirty down, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty down, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty down, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty down, now you got them concrete road. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them jug lamp, now you got them electric light. Long time got them jug lamp, now you got them electric light. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time full bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full bucket water, now you got them overhead. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them old man, now you got them young guys. Long time got the old man, now you got them young guys. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them donkey cat, now you got them.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
All right, I must apologize for you guys for this late start. It's unlike us, but whenever I start a bit late, who is to be blamed? And so I'll make an announcement this evening that our operator, Lemon, has been suspended. He has been suspended for the entire program tonight. We are not sure when he will be reinstated. We will have to go through the board at Bench Up Radio here to decide whether we will reinstate Lemon. I think it is getting overbearing. And many of you will agree with me that this is serious business we do here on 107.1 FM. Good evening to all of you. It is serious business. And so the thing is, Lemon cannot continue to do that. This is not a cake shop operation. This is not called Rob Street Bakery or whatever. So if Lemon is locked away in some rusty corner listening to this show, he is suspended until further notice. So if you guys know of an operator or anyone who wants to be a competent operator, please let us know. But I can assure you that Lemon will not be suspended without a proper hearing. It wouldn't take as long as 7 or 6 years or whatever for that. You know what I mean, right? So it will be over shortly. We will make a decision whether to keep him on or not. But before we get to our guests, let me say, I don't want to be like Irfan Ali, who he probably may say, before we get to our guesses, right? Before we get to our guesses, right? But before we get to our guests, let me announce again that Lemon is off this evening. He hasn't reported for work. I haven't heard from him all day, but he did get pay, mind you. He did get pay. I can assure you that. But that's what happened with folks from that part of Guyana. They get pay and they don't show up. And you guys know which part of Guyana I'm talking about, right? I don't want to say BV because we have a BV guy that's on here. I don't want to say Alness because we have an Alness guy that's on here as well. So Lemon is not on the job tonight at all. Good evening to all of you. People are already begging for Lemon to be given a chance. Some of you yourself ought to be lucky that you're on this evening. I should have been blocking some of you for about a week. Yep. And I think that is part of the reason why Lemon decided not to come tonight, because I told him that he should be blocking some of you who didn't share the link. We have a long list, and Lemon might be in some sort of conspiracy with you folks not to be blocked. Some of you, Marla Alicock, your name top on the list to be blocked. You have never shared our link. Diana Badin and all the others who haven't shared our link. We are watching you. And maybe that's why Lemon is not here tonight. Malcolm and all those other folks, we know you guys shared a link. We see Pastor Anil Sugrim is with us. Good evening. Rita Singh is with us. Malcolm Luther Margaret Nelson and all you guys, I'm going to stay for the next 30 seconds. And if you don't share the link, well, that's it. I'm done. There'll be no show tonight. I'll be as hasty as some of the politicians, some who are running for office, whether in the opposition, whether in the regime or wherever. I'm going to stop talking to you guys. I'm going to be petty. I'm not going to be talking to you guys. Good evening to all of you, though. It's Friday. Look, it's payday. A lot of you may have been paid today. I don't know. A lot of you may have gotten your 7%. I don't know. But this is my facial expression today, because for many of you, it's payday. The 7% is an insult. And you should have seen my facial expression today. That sums it up, right? That sums it up. It sums it up. Well, let's get to this guy here now. Mark Light, the president of the Guyana Teachers Union. Look, this was a while back. This is what Mr. Light is saying. Teachers Union renews call for meeting with Irfan Ali. We haven't been hearing anything. So these guys wrote to Irfan Ali. Irfan Ali probably took the letter, dashed it in the garbage, went away to Dubai and other places, and that was it. It's done. And so we are not hearing anything from the Guyana Teachers Union, or we don't know what is going on. We just don't know. Can somebody ask Mr. Mark Light? Yeah, Mr. Mark Light, what exactly is happening? I don't know. What exactly is happening? We don't know. But what we do know is that the country is in serious crisis. PPPC not interested in good governance, oil sector. That is RAM. RAM is Christopher Ram. Christopher Ram. That is Ram. Okay? And he is upset, and rightly so. Christopher Ram. Upset. But all of these folks joined in with the PPP. Ram is a good friend of mine. He was there in the struggle. He was there in the trenches. He was there with grassroots people when needed. He wasn't in any corner peeping and suing. He was there. And so I'm able to identify who was there and who wasn't there. Trust me. Please do. Trust me. But let us get to this here. This is a lawyer. She's a lawyer. She was on with us last evening. Shellon Washington wants to thank all of you for the good word, your good feedbacks and so forth. And she wants you to get in touch with her. Her telephone number is, write it down, 718-877-3100. If you have any legal matters or whatever, she's in Brooklyn. Give her a call, 718-877-3100. All right. You want to talk about, what is it? Let's see this. What's going on? List this. Okay, that's Lisa Edwards on social media. 7% can't walk. And that is true. No matter how you try to force it in, no matter how you try to ram it, no matter how you try to whatever you want to do with it, the 7% can't walk. And this is exactly how we say it in Guyana. It just can't walk. I don't know how these folks, these vagabonds in the PPP, I honestly don't know how they think that 7% is going to work. The truth of the matter is 7% can't work. Sorry, I don't know what is it. You live in America and you try to sing Guyanese, 7% can't work. It just can't work, right? You guys repeat after me. 7% can't walk. It just can't walk. You know what I mean? But then again, we have something for them. This is what we have for these two guys. Last evening, I listened to some of your feedbacks, and somebody said, "Mark, how are you going to play this tune?" And they had the pastor and the Washington. Miss Washington was on, the lawyer who's also a pastor, and then David Hines' face. And then the other guy's face, Elroy, and all of these, all because of this song, this 7% Can't Walk song. Let's play it.
Cha gung gung, chaska gung gung, teacher. chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Assemblyman, chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Tita, chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Nyasa muajan, chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Sister, chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Mami ni one, chaska gungun, chagungun, chaska gungun. Brada, chaska.
Brad, right? The Chaskadungu, Chakdungu. Wait a minute. How the heck this reached up on? Oh, okay. So this is Andrew on the left. I'm sorry, not Andrew. This is Jackson on the left and Johnson on the right. It's kind of like, you know, the presidents of the United States of America. They had Andrew Jackson, then they got Andrew Johnson, and then they got LBJ, which is Lyndon B. Can't remember the B, but Lyndon B. Johnson. And many of you know Lyndon B. Johnson took over when, let me see if you know your history, when who was assassinated? LBJ took over. LBJ took over. So this is Jackson and this is Johnson. Jackson beat Johnson in the court. Johnson has to pay Jackson over $5 million. Johnson has to pay Jackson. Where Johnson is going to get that money from? Where? I feel it for Johnson, seriously. But Johnson is upset. Here why Johnson is upset. He is upset because he doesn't agree with the court's ruling. And obviously, he is pissed off. Thank you, Ms. Simons. JFK. When Kennedy was assassinated, LBJ was then vice president. And as you know, the chain of commands here is that LBJ was sworn in as president of the United States of America after JFK was assassinated. But speaking of presidency, right, you know, Vice President Kamala Harris got to be in the presidency position for about an hour and a half today. Oh, yes, history in the making. Now, look, before we get to our guests, but as Irfan Ali probably would say, guesses, right? Tonight's guesses. But Jackson is the happiest man right now. Johnson isn't. Johnson is crying because he doesn't feel that it was justice he got from the court. But when it was the elections, petitions, cases, and all these things, and the rulings and so forth were in favor of the installed regime, Johnson, was happy. He was so happy that he jumped on a mountaintop, and I don't know, gosh, but Jackson is the happier one tonight of the two. Good evening to you, Mr. Jackson. And good evening to you, Johnson. I don't know, I haven't seen Johnson in a while, since Johnson basically probably getting fat on some cow heel soup. All right? I don't know. But our guests are with us tonight. J.R. Crawford, Onyx Duncan. He's related to the other Duncan. The Ring Duncan.
The Ring.
The Ring Duncan. I think Sherrod is doing a great job.
Yeah, man.
In whatever style that he has, he's doing a good job. And we are not here to condemn anybody, but we are here to support individuals who are part of the struggle and part of the fight. It's just so that you look a little different from the other Duncan. The other Duncan get a moon head, and you get a coconut-shaped head like mine. Good to have you again on the show, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Crawford, good to see you and good to have you as well. How have you been, JR?
Thank you. Good night. So far, so good. Kind of busy.
Yeah, kind of busy indeed. Mr. Duncan, Onyx Duncan, how have you been, sir? And welcome back to Straight Up Again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Mark. I've been great. it's always ups and downs with this in these times, I should say. So yeah, it's been great though.
Okay, let's begin with you are originally from BV. Let me ask you, mate, because maybe you're BV, you're BVians. I don't know if they call it that, but Paul Stowe is from BV.
It's
What has he been up
Baronian.
to? Do you see him?
Baronians. I see Paul so 1 and 2 times. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Give him my regards, please.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. JR, what's happening? Let's start with the 7%, man. How are the people out on the quarantine? Alness, Evesham, Epsom, Philippi, Cromarty, Kilmarnock, Wellington Park, 35 Village, Tarlagy, Kildonan, Nurney, Limlair. You don't know those villages, Onyx, but
Yes, I've been there. I've been there.
yeah. How are those people feeling about this 7%? So-called.
Everybody is kind of upset, but most of them accept that it is what it is. But in reality, it's a disrespect to the people, and the ones who voted for the current installed government, they're complaining more that this is what they got after supporting them. It can't buy anything. So it comes back to the point where making bad decisions based on feelings, this is the end product. And you're going to hear the grumble. They made the choice. We had better choices. We had a better choice. But, for some reason, some decided not to take that choice. So now they're complaining. They're feeling the negative effect of voting by feelings and not by progress.
I like that part, and I am sure that Onyx also likes that. When you vote out of emotions and those sort of feelings, as opposed to policies, good policies, sound policies for the interest of all in the country. When you vote out of emotion, you end up with these kunumunus that we have in office right now. Cronies and all these different things. I don't know. But before I get to that question to you, let me say that some of our listeners, since it's Friday, we're not going to be as serious, but Emily, so too, right? She's saying Liverpool, Manchester, Lancaster, Firish, Rosal, Ulverston, Alness, Big Alness, Hackstyle, you name it, Adventure, Blackbush Polar, all these things. And the quarantine people don't make joke. They like when you call all of the names. Wim, Bloomfield, Lettikeni. We could go on and on. Nig, Albion, Hampshire, Belvedere. Gosh, I'm impressed. I know them all, almost all. 7%. What's the talk around BV and other places whenever you get a chance and you jump in a minibus or your car to head to town? What's the talk around those areas, Mr. Duncan?
Well, it's not. Well, I really don't. I don't want to say. I want to be very honest. I don't know the talk as yet around BV, but I have a following on Facebook, and the talk is, since this. Forget
about Facebook.
Yeah,
What's
but
the talk
my friends. Let's say my friends. I've had a talk with a couple of my friends. We even went into breaking down what the 7% looks like and what it looks like after. You get this retroactive Christmas time, because it's nothing. It's nothing, because after you tax that 7%, it's like you're just giving me the same thing over and over again. So this 7% that they're bringing, if they're saying that it's going to be 50% that they promise for the 5 years, then that's what you need to tell us, and not 7% now, 10% now. If it's going to be 50% after your first term, then let us know that up front, and don't lie to the people.
And I guess a lot of people have even their own supporters. I've been listening and reading to a lot of the comments as well, because I'm not on the ground at this moment. You guys are on the ground, hence my reason for coming to you guys, the real source from the ground. People are really upset, including supporters of the PPP, because the 7%. Whose dog is that, please? That sounds like a BV dog. Even the dog is upset. About this whole situation. Before I continue, let our listeners know that three guests were supposed to be here tonight. One of them pulled out. He says he's unable to make it tonight, but he promised that he will be here next week. Mr. Norman Brown should have been with you guys tonight. Norman Brown, he should have been. And you know, Norman is all out for his candidate, all out for his horse in the race, so to speak. Aubrey, Compton, Norton. You can't tell Norman anything about his candidate, man. He wants to cut your neck off right away. And so Norman has promised, he made contact with me to say he's unable to make it here this evening. He's probably watching. Good evening to you, Norman. But you still have a space here next week to come and sell your candidate, sell the policies of your candidate, what your candidate stands for, so forth and so on. Not just in the trench grassroots. People want to hear more than that. J.R. Crawford, I know, and we know that he already says his horse in the race is Dr. Richard Van West Charles, but we are not here to talk just about that. I'll ask him a question later down about that. We're talking about the country, because it's not as though Congress is here and everything else in the country shut down. No. Right. You have a horse in the race, Mr. Duncan?
I don't want to say I have a horse in the race, but there are persons that I support, and not just only persons, because I think most of the candidates that are vying for the leader of the opposition, leader of the PNC, sorry, are great candidates, and they can work well together. So I really don't have someone that I support.
Fair enough, and I respect that. I respect that. These are the three candidates. Whichever one that you guys support, our listeners, whether it's Frederick, that is Joseph Frederick Harmon, whether it is Aubrey Compton Norton, or whether it's Richard Alexander. Is that correct, JR?
Yes.
Richard Alexander Van West Charles. Support whomever you want to support. It is your choice. And so we don't have a problem with that here on 107.1 FM. In fact, we have made it clear that once they have a launching, those who are vying for the leader of the PNCR, we will carry their campaign launch free of cost. We carry that of Joe Harmon, we carry that of Van West Charles, and whenever Aubrey Compton Norton gets his launching, if ever he gets one, we will carry that as well here. So I have no horse in the race. I don't know if I'll end up having a horse in the race closer to the elections. I don't know. Let us touch now, JR. 9-point-something billion US dollars taxpayers owe ExxonMobil. 9-point-something billion dollars. They're claiming that Guyana has in the bank, that is a total of 540 something million US dollars. How does that add up? Guyanese owe ExxonMobil 9-point-something billion US, and they have 500 million in the bank. Talk about that a little, sir.
Now that figure, that 9 billion, something is wrong with that number. It's too large, and we, the people, need to demand a line item explanation on that number, how we arrived at it, and how it was spent. Now, as the money in the bank, if I remember clearly, the contract states that we would have 300 million last year and 400 this year, plus the profit sharing and our twice a year drop sales. So I don't understand how it's only 534 million. I think it should be closer to 1.1 billion. So, I mean, something is not right with the numbers here. And, you know, the leaders of today needs to let the people come clean with us, you know, let us know what is going on and why is it that we have to pay Exxon that astronomical number and what is it for?
It is downright fraud. Just
and
fraud.
I agree. I agree.
Why do you agree, Mr. Duncan?
Because the numbers don't add up. The numbers don't add up. You're calling these figures, but you're not giving us the correct figure at the end of the day. Because if you're, like JR said, you say that we were going to get 300 last year, we're going to get this how much this year. We're already past 500, but we only have 500 in the bank. Something is definitely wrong. And I agree with what he said. We need to hold our leaders accountable, and not only hold our leaders accountable. We need to hold the opposition bench accountable.
Good question.
They're the one.
Good observation. Let me ask you this, Mr. Duncan. Do you think supporters of the coalition are holding their leaders in the opposition accountable?
Well, that's another thing. That's another thing too, Mark. That's another thing.
What do you think?
And I don't think so. You're gonna get 1 or 2 persons that's gonna call them out in Facebook, and you're gonna get 1 or 2 persons that's gonna go out there and protest against them and say these things. But if you don't, like I always say, we are the ones that are more powerful than the politicians, because we hold the coffers to them being there or them being out of there.
Do you think they know that, J.R. Crawford? Do you think they know that? Good point, Mr. Duncan. But Crawford, do you think they know that the people are the ones who are stronger than them, and therefore they ought to be respecting and listening to the people? J.R.?
They know it, but for some reason in our country, once someone is elected, they ascend to this high and mighty status, and the people allow them to get away with that. Now, I have never and will never allow a politician to believe that they are king or queen, because you work for the people. Right. And Mr. Duncan rightly said the opposition practically is non-existent. They haven't formulated a plan to utilize their ministers of parliament to be effective and to be communicating with the masses on a weekly basis. You have 31 MPs. Why can't you touch base with the people every other day? You're being paid for it. And, I'm still upset with some MPs who are claiming to have other responsibilities other than the MP position. I think that position should be held by someone who can dedicate themselves 24/7. You're having all these progs with a pretty good salary. You can't complain, but yet you are not working for the people who employ you full time. It doesn't happen in any other job. You'll be fired for it. And I'm actually surprised at Mr. Harman for not getting his MPs together and working to disseminate information to the masses on a regular basis. Not until you pressure them that they run out, and they'll come out for a couple of days and they disappear. That is not how you represent your constituency. It's a failed behavior, and that by being disorganized and disconnected from the people who select you, it's causing the opposition to behave as though they're the only political party in the country. And hence, we are losing so much, we are not getting any attention. I am actually surprised at the video clip that we saw on the Essequibo Coast, where the fishermen were complaining. We haven't seen the opposition team address that issue. So here we are, we're having people who are drawing salaries, and when you point out their ineffectiveness, they grow feelings. If you know that you cannot be on the ground with the people because there is another job that you're doing, whoever controls the list or the selection needs to step in immediately and replace those people, because we are not having proper representation. And, it's not that they're representing 30,000 people. It's 200 plus. And here you are taking a back seat, drawing a salary, what it constitutes. How can you reprimand the current regime when you yourself is being ineffective?
All right. I guess a lot of people wouldn't disagree with you with a lot of things that you have said. We have shadow ministers within the opposition. A lot of them are basically what I would call political deadweight. there's shadow, but you're not seeing the shadow. In a lot of areas, they're not proactive. They're just reactionary. In every instance, they have, we need to see a proper security plan. That is what they should be coming out and talking to the masses. What about international relations, foreign relations, and all these different things? What about the agriculture sector? What about farmers and all these different things? We're not seeing these plans. All we're seeing is like a reactionary for the most part. Now, some of them may argue and say, Benchop, shut your mouth, or Crawford, shut your mouth, or Onyx, go back in your hammock at BV or something and relax yourself, right? They will say that. But one of the things that I agree with JR is that being a member of parliament is a full-time position. And most of these members of parliament treat it as though it's just a part-time job and they can go out and represent the people whenever they get time. Look, so many people would love to receive $250,000 a month.
I would.
I know, Onyx. I know, Onyx. I know you would. A lot of people, right? $250,000 a month. Not only that, they also get duty-free concession. Whether it's for 5 years or whatever, they get a duty-free concession vehicle. When they drive across the Borbies Bridge, GR has to pay a couple $1,000. You have to pay a couple $1,000 across the Borbies Bridge with your vehicle. But MPs, zoom for free. So they are receiving tons and tons of benefits. But are they giving the people back what it's worth? But no, some of them may argue differently because it's now Congress. They're running for office and they're going to tell the people all sorts of things. But you know what? The people are not stupid at all. What is your take on the performance of or the performances of the opposition MPs, Mr. Duncan? And what should they do better?
Well, given this situation that we're in currently, whereby the government promised $50,000, 50% bonus, 50% increase in salary. This is the time whereby the opposition should have come together, sit at the table and say, well, hey, this is what these people promise. Let us break it down to the country and show the country that the government is barefaced, because they're saying this and they're doing that, and they're bringing this to us, or they're telling the people this, but actually in reality, this is not it. Because you're going to say that, oh, your increase, your 7% is more than the increase than several other countries, but you're not telling us what is the minimum wage in these other countries. So this is where the opposition comes in. I'm not supposed to be the one that's going on Facebook or sitting down at the table with my friend and saying, this is what happening. This is where the opposition comes in and say, hey, the minimum wage in Jamaica is this. The minimum wage in Trinidad is this. This is the minimum wage in Suriname. So you can't come and tell me as a government that your 7% is something that we should rejoice over. When we're only getting 20,000 and in Jamaica they're getting 30,000. So the opposition members are not coming up with plans, strategies to debunk these statements, to debunk these false propaganda that the government is spreading, saying and telling untruths, and not carrying out with the campaign promises that they would have made to the government, the Guyanese people.
And that is so true. But most of them are just busy and the energy campaigning for Congress. Now, Congress is important, right? But I've never seen a Congress like this before, where all of them are on the ground, they're busy, they're campaigning. We want to see them in their constituency talking about. Look, JR, you take over. Take over, JR.
When you hear these that are mentioning that they're running for a position and they have to concentrate on Congress, it shows how weak they are, that they can only focus on one aspect at a time. You have to be able to wear multiple hats on the same day.
That's correct.
Now, something that bothers me, up until the very early 90s, we had something called quality control and price control. And nobody has ever tried to work on reducing the cost of living in this country. Everybody's shouting for wage increase. What about trying to put a hold on the cost of living, because as you go yearly, the money becomes useless. And it's a dangerous trend that we are going to. If we don't put our arms around the cost of living and other expense, we are going to, we're not going to make progress as a nation, because you're going to walk around with a bag full of money with no weight in it. I'm not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
No, Mr. Duncan, you were saying something?
Mark
okay. So you are correct. In terms of this 7%, it doesn't mean almost nothing to the people when you add it up, right? What the opposition should have had, the leader of the opposition and all of them, but everybody out campaigning, they're busy campaigning for Congress. They should have had this economic plan, a sound economic plan to discuss to the nation and go into various regions to talk about their economic plans and let the people know that this 7% cannot work. Let them know about the $9 billion that taxpayers, US dollars, that taxpayers owe ExxonMobil. $9 billion. Explain these things. Go out, go down to the grassroots. Now, some MPs might be watching and say, Ben Chap, we do that. No, you don't. You don't do that.
I haven't heard that the opposition had a formulated plan to conquer what the installed government was doing. It's as though they're going to say, you know what, we are going to stand there, and when they do something, we're going to run out and make a statement. That is not how the opposition operates.
And that's what they do. And when people come into the country, they rush and beg for a meeting and a photo op with the people. Whenever they install regime, bring in people, they take a photo op and they're happy about that. They have no proper policy, no agriculture, nothing, no foreign policy, nothing, absolutely nothing, no proper economic plan. And this is what, there's too divided. And I hope this is constructive criticism towards them, that they don't stop talk to me, because some of them petty. They love to stop talking.
Very petty, people. Mark. I can attest to that. Very petty.
Oh, you can attest to that too?
I can attest to that.
Look, we have a counselor, right? A counselor, right? And now, look, let me say this here. I noticed someone just sent me a message, right? And this is the sort of ridiculous things that I don't like, an accusation. Someone is just telling me here now that I have limited their comment on Facebook. People love to accuse individuals without even asking a proper question. Now, there are times when Facebook does that. I don't limit people. Of course, our operator throw the trench crappers into the trenches, but I don't know what's going on with Facebook. Someone just text me and tell me that they can't believe that I limited their comment on Facebook on this program right now. You see, I don't know, man. I'm not going to call the individual's name, but I don't know.
Before you move on.
Meet the people. Anil Sugrim is a counselor. And Anil Sugrim is saying, look, meet the people. He said he is still waiting on some of them to walk the streets. I don't know. Go ahead, Mr. Duncan. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I think early in the year, Patrick Yard was calling for a tax threshold increase, because you would know, JR, if that salary increase goes up, if we get consistently get salary increase and the tax threshold do not increase, then it will put a burden on the small man, and also the big boy at the top will be affected, because the tax threshold is at 65,000, and if that tax threshold does not go up, it will be burdensome.
That's the thing. Every time they announce an increase to the small man, the shops get an increase, and it's ridiculous that a country that's producing oil can't use a dollar bill. It's useless. Or a $20 bill, or, So what we are seeing is that for some reason, over the years, the politicians who we entrust to manage our affairs are not looking for our best interest. Everything is a balloon effect, and it's acceptable. We, the people, need to stop this nonsense, and, hence the reason, like member of parliament, they should be limited to a 2-year term, and they must run for their position if desired. Yeah. We have to stop being selective with these things, because we're selecting people that are not there for our interests. It's all about how rich I can get in this term and what I can get for myself. And it's that thing. At the end of the day, it's only two kind of people here: the rich and the poor, or the good and the bad. So we, the normal people, have to come together, regardless of race, religion, or creed, and voice our displeasure. At this juncture, I don't know why there isn't a call for a referendum in the way the country's being run, because it's getting out of hand, and we're not pulling back this before it goes over the falls. A lot of politicians are going to be annoyed, but to hell with it. If you're representing the poor, you got to be there for them. Once the poor man is happy, you can relax. As of now, there's nothing there. All the missed opportunities that the coalition is letting slip by what's going on now, it's a sad state of affairs. And my observation, if the coalition doesn't get its acts together, in 10 years, many of the poor people are going to be driven out from the main and into the forest or into the bush areas. That's my observation with it. I'm seeing it. I watched the complicity on the street. It's a dangerous trend. When people get desperate, they're going to be bought out very easily, and they'll have to seek living somewhere else.
Look, let me remind our listeners that local government elections were supposed to be held this year. The PPP doesn't want local government elections to be held. Of course, they're going to talk about the pandemic and all these things. And these are the very people who were basically laughing at the PNC for saying that they don't want to hold their their Congress. They're not Democrat. All these sort of hula coming from the PPP. But look, local government elections are due this year. The PPP has not said a word. They did not say a word about local government elections. Just the same way when they were in office, they weren't saying anything about that. And the ABC countries seem to be quiet also on that. Duncan, what is the talk about local government elections on the ground there? What is the talk?
Before I proceed, JR wants to say something.
No, go ahead. What is the talk? We'll get back to JR.
Okay.
What is the talk?
Well, a lot of persons in my village would have been speaking about the local government elections and who they would have been voting for, because I would have been in the run for the elections. And basically every time I have to remind them that it's not my call. It's not the council call. It's up to the government. So it's the government that needs to speak about local government elections. And if they don't speak about it now, we can't wake up tomorrow and say they're going to get local government elections in December or November. So, I mean, the people want local government election because in my community at this point in time, there are persons that are stymieing the progress that is supposed to be happening in my community. So people want it, the youths especially.
And the people who are stymieing the process in your community, are they people from the coalition or the installed PPP regime?
Mark, politics is a very corrupt thing.
I guess that answers the question, right? That answers the question. Now,
wow,
you want to run for something in your community, which is good, and I wish you all the best. But when everybody's running for something now, just like at Congress Place, everybody's running. Who is going to be there to vote?
Vote, yes.
Mr. Crawford, go ahead, sir.
Mark, local government elections should have been on an issue with the opposition. Again, no proper plan. They're not forcing the issue. And this brings us to our leadership contest next month. When you don't have a proper leader that has international experience and connections, you're not able, being that we have a dictatorial system here, you're not being able to court international people, because not having local government election is part of trampling on human rights. Mm-hmm. It may not look so, but it is. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, if you have a well-rounded leader who have the connections internationally, you can work with that. And we all know the outside help is very, very helpful. Yes, the people in the country votes, but the way the system is designed, you have to have international pressures to make things happen. Now, this current coalition, well, PNC group, right? They don't have the connections. And that is going to be detrimental down the road if the delegates decide to go with feelings instead of intelligence and the big scope of what the PNC means to the country. Now, Mr. Harman, since assuming the opposition role, should have been preparing his slate for a local government election by demanding certain things. But he has sat back and waited for Ali to say, you know what, I'm going to hold local. They're not going to hold it for the next 25 years if they're there. We have seen it. They don't believe in it. The whole thing is to dismantle the coalition, dismantle the PNC, weaken them at the knees. And we're seeing a lot of arrogance in supporters of particular candidates who, when they don't look at the big picture, that who can mold the party, bring in foreign help, bring in donors, grow the party, bring cross-line voters. People are saying the arrogance and arguments is going to do. It can't. You know, of the three candidates, my candidate that I support.
Well, 1 second. We're talking.
Yeah,
Look,
I'm not
you're
going to
getting a
that.
free ad here. 1 second, JR. I'm not going to be bullied. No. 1 second.
No, I'm not jumping the
You're going
gun.
to get a chance to plug your candidate. 1 second.
Keep plugging it yet.
You're going to get a chance to plug your.
But local election,
People
my
always
brother.
come on this show. People bullying me outside of this show,
Not
on
bullying.
this show. Go ahead.
Listen,
Go
if
ahead.
we bring international people here, they can force the issue for us to start cleaning the list and get local election. Every month, it trickles down to the other month. We, the people, are losing because our leadership are weak and we don't have international help to come to help us. Younger people who can assume roles are left behind. And eventually, they're going to lose faith, like this young man here. And they're going to say, you know what? Our leaders are not helping for us to get into position to make improvement in our communities. And it goes away. In that way, the party falls apart.
You know,
This is not about that. I'm talking about the local government.
fair enough. You know, Mr. Crawford, you have some valid points there indeed. And let me just correct you. You said that Mr. Harman should have been creating a slate for the local government elections. At least we got to give the opposition leader some sort of credit because he does have a slate, right? But not for local government elections. He has a slate for Congress.
And it's a corrupt slate.
This Rudolph Pollard is saying here, that's the reason some young people can't get work because of that. Okay. I thought he was saying that the reason why young people or people in general are turned off by the politics, I just don't know that people are indeed turned off by the politics. And that is why politicians, they need politicians who understand not just the politics and the optics and international relations, but it's being there with the people, understanding the people, understanding what they want, their constituency, what they want and what they should be doing to represent their constituency. And we haven't seen a lot of that on the part of the opposition. The opposition has not been as proactive as they should have been from day one. In fact, the opposition is behaving just like when they were in office. You know, some of them are very arrogant, who I believe should not be in office, who should not be in politics. They're too arrogant. Now, let's get to Mr. Onyx Duncan. Why do you suppose that this installed PPP regime is so afraid of local government elections? Why?
All right, because my take is that the local government, it decides who the people want more in depth, because with the general elections, people, like Mr. Crawford said, people vote emotionally. If people are seeing what you are doing in the village, if people are seeing what the party or whatever party is in the village is doing, because there are several parties that run for local government elections. If people are seeing what they are doing in the villages and the communities, then it gives them a better opportunity to vote for the party of their choice. And the PPPC knows that when it comes to local government election, they can't go in, and I don't want to seem racist, but I have to. They can't go in go into Buxton and say they're doing this, because we know fully well they go to Annandale and they keep Bottomhouse meeting every Sunday, and they would never go into Buxton and say, oh, we're coming to do this in Buxton, we're coming to do this today. They would never do that. So if we go to local government elections, the PPP would not win anything. They would not win, and they would lose badly. And they're afraid of that, and they know why.
All right. They are indeed afraid of that, and they know why. To my guest, it's an interesting evening. Before we get back to JR, Mr. Duncan, what exactly are the people looking for in the next leader, the person who will ultimately become the next leader of the People's National Congress reform? What exactly are they looking for in a leader?
Well, I won't call it the leader alone for the PNC, because my assumption is that that leader will also be the leader of the opposition.
Fair enough. Well,
Right?
as of now, it cannot.
Well,
be,
as of now,
it cannot be that unless Harman
Correct.
becomes leader of the party, then he will still be leader of the opposition.
That
But
is
if
correct.
Aubrey Norton or Van West Charles, if they become the leader of the party, then they're not the opposition leader. But go ahead. What are the people looking for?
The people are looking for a leader that can speak to you, that can come to you, come walk into your community, go on the ground, talk to you, sit down and have a meeting with you. A honest leader, someone that can bring in the, like Mr. Crawford is saying, bring in the international community, someone who has the contacts, so that when we go to the bigger elections, we know that this is what we're carrying with us. This is the baggage, or these are the boardings, and we can bear these boardings because we have the contacts. We have a man that's honest, that is supportive of the people, that speaks to the people, that goes out there to the people, that we can trust. We are looking for those qualities in a good leader. Someone that can rebuild society and bring it to a better today than it was yesterday.
And sorry about that. And I do agree with you. That is exactly what people are looking for. Indeed, I'm looking at some of the comments. I was hoping that 1 hour, that's it. And so I want to let you guys go, but it's Friday night. We can spend a couple minutes more. I noticed that Mr. Norman Brung wants to join the conversation. He wants to join the discussion. Mr. Norman Brung. Norman is an Aubrey supporter. Look, let us play the game fair. For those who support Aubrey Norton, it is okay, man. Go out, vote. If you guys want Aubrey there and you guys believe in Aubrey, nothing is wrong with that. If you guys believe in this person, let me see if you guys know who this is.
Dear Abby.
If you guys believe in that person, go out and vote for him. Or if you guys believe in Bornham, LFS Bornham's son-in-law, go out and vote for him. But up to now, you guys didn't tell me who this is, you know.
It's Dear Abby.
Mr. Joseph Frederick Harman. Joseph Frederick Harman, indeed. I don't know. So any of those people running, the three of them running, do you think they have that in them to go out to the people?
They all have their own qualities.
Fair
right?
enough.
Some of them, they can speak to the people. They can, when it's an election, they can bring the people in. I'm sweating here. It's hot.
I know. Sorry about the questions. You're actually outside of the ring.
But anyways, yeah, they're a person that can bring in the constituents. They're a person that can carry a constituency. They're a person that can bring in the contacts, and they're other person that have the intellectual ability to carry the party. So like I said earlier, when you first asked the question, They all have the ability that can form a great party. But there's only one person that we can choose.
Of course. And you sung them more like a diplomat, man. Which is okay, because you're playing it safe, because you want to run for office and local government stuff. So
That
you're
is
playing
correct.
it safe with all of them, right?
That is correct.
Hopefully when you become one of those leaders out there, and you're a young man with a lot of potential, hopefully you wouldn't be doing a lot of this.
I will be watching back at this live because I have to go by what I say. You know, I say what I do.
You know what? Talk about your candidate. Why do you believe Van West Charles is the best person, Mr. Crawford? Go ahead.
Mark, before I get to that point, I want to mention something. With local government elections, it gives the smaller parties an opportunity to hold position and to grow their party. When you don't hold it, you stymie the little parties, and I guess that's by design. So that is something that the little party should push for, because they can have a say and in whatever strongholds they have, and improve the lives of people there that they're concerned about. The next thing, our PNC party should have a code of conduct guide.
There is.
Hold on a second. Well, it's not an operation, because too many times people are complaining about the attitude of party bigs when they go to visit. The attitude, the way they, not showing proper respect. The PNC office is the office of the people of the PNC, and as such, they should be treated with respect. They are valuable citizens. Every vote counts, as we could have seen last year. Now, on to the question with Mr. Charles. Look, the four guys that's in the race will have to work together at one point in time. They all have the different areas that they are strong in.
All right.
Mr. Williams, legal mind.
Wait,
Mr. Harmon,
wait a minute. Basil is in the race.
Was in the race.
he was nominated, but I'm saying.
He was nominated, but he has been
yeah.
missing in action. He never said he's going to accept.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Correct.
when remember, the party is bigger than the candidate, right?
Sure.
You have Mr. Harmon is good at drumming up financial support for the party.
Yeah,
Norton
right
is
about that.
Norton is good to being on the ground. Mr. Van
Right about that.
is the one with the international knowledge and experience. Those four gentlemen needs to come together, because the big picture is when
At the end of the day, one of them can only
Still have to be the winner.
one of them.
We
One
all
of
know
them.
these qualities that they carry.
Let us welcome, because it is late in England right now, in London. Let us welcome Aubrey guy, Aubrey supporter, Aubrey Norton guy. He holds no bones. He's not ashamed. He's out there. He's batting for his candidate, Aubrey Norton, and nothing is wrong with that. Mr. Norman Brung, good night, sir.
Good night, Bencha. Thank you for having me in the program. I presume I'm on audio. Can you see me?
Well, if you're on audio, we can't see you, but we are hearing you.
Good. No, but I just wanted to make sure that I am not actually on video. That's why I asked the question. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
How have you been? I see you've been.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that I'm very, very proud and pleased by the contributions of your two guests. I am so elated by their contributions. Kudos, guys. Kudos. I haven't listened to persons on programs that are so real and so organic and so straightforward as these two young men tonight on your program, and I want to congratulate you for giving them that opportunity to speak. I noticed that when one of your guests was talking about Harmon, you were a bit ruffled, but I'm disposed to your question.
Oh, thank you so much. We're hearing you loud and clear. Let me give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes. We're timing you to say, why do you support Aubrey Compton Norton for leadership of the PNC?
Well, Mark, as you know, I'm not a 2 minutes man. I'm not you, but I will try to. Right. But repeat the question, please.
All right. You see, that's the difference with us. I'm more into longevity. You forgot the question already.
I'm telling you about 2 minutes. Why do I support Aubrey Norton?
Yeah.
Why do I support Aubrey Norton?
Yes, sir.
I support a candidate, whether it was you or whether it was someone else that possessed the qualities and capability that would have connected with the grassroots. I would have supported them. Fortunately, it's Aubrey Norton at the moment. It could have been anyone. I am not looking at an individual. I am looking at someone that is connected to the grassroots, someone that is a fresh breath of air, someone that is different to the candidates that we have today and leaders we have today that would have failed miserably out of government and 5 years in government. Guyana needs a solution to its political problems. Guyana needs to move away from the personality politics, from that old arrogant, politicians who feel that they are anointed, and once they're there, you understand, by virtue of the machinery, party machinery, that they have to be there and they have to continue and so on. This is a revolution. This is a revolution, Mark Bishop, and you have been part of that revolution. You have been a part of that revolution. But the point I'm making today is that a change has to come. And we have to move away from the old way of doing things. Aubrey Norton did not, and I want your viewers to hear this, Aubrey Norton did not come out and ask to be nominated. He did not ask to be pushed to the forefront. It was the call, Mark Bishop, of the people that said it is time to have a Norton's leadership. And it was so overwhelming that Norton had no choice than to say, I will rise to the call of the people. I will rise to the call of the people. So I want to make this pellucid. Norton didn't get up and said, I am going into this leadership contest. After we would have exhausted everything in the opposition, and we would have seen the ineptitude of the current opposition that would have failed in government, were kicked out, you understand, in 5 years, that did not even understand that Sharon Das would have emerged in their own camp. Their ears were not to the ground, Mark Bishop. Their ears were not to the ground. They were aloof, and Sharon Das was in there with them and destroyed them without them realizing. Let me say this to you quickly because I've got 2 minutes, but I work longer than that. Right, but let me say this to you, and let me make it very clear to you. The PPP must be confronted and removed. They must be confronted. I think we share that view. Your guests on the program share that view. But the PPP can spend another 23 years after we would have failed miserably within the 5 years we were given because we were not connected to the grassroots. A revolution is brewing at the moment. A revolution like in 2015 that would have removed the PPP after 23 years. Right? And I'm saying that today, the revolution is in our camp so that we can be prepared, we can be equipped to go back to the drawing board with a leader that will recommence this struggle, and Aubrey Norton is that person. Aubrey Norton is that. The grassroots are connected to it. You saw what happened in the nominations. I note with concern that the Village Voice and those people would have filled 50%. It was almost 80% of the nominations that would have gone to Aubrey. The point I'm making before I stop, there is a new form of revolution that is sweeping across the party that is giving it another opportunity to recalibrate, and to go back to the forefront to once again remove the PPP. Aubrey Norton is that person that the grassroots did not hesitate to reconnect with. And we have to take it from this strategically and work with that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I appreciate your time. GR, do you agree with that, what Mr. Brown just said, as it pertains to Mr. Aubrey Norton having that, what it takes to be the next leader of the PNCR?
No, I don't agree. Simple, because we had 15,000 PNC member in Georgetown area didn't vote. Mr. Norton had a lot of portfolio in the party for many years. And yes, Mr. Brown is saying they have to connect to the grassroots.
We're not talking about the vote, but go ahead. I don't understand that.
Mr. Brown, I am speaking now. I am speaking. The PNC never had a plan to keep the connection there. Both Norton and Hart had a lot of portfolio that they could have been on the ground. There is no reason to tell me that someone is a grassroots candidate and they have to go back to the grassroots. What were they doing when they were in position? You don't have to be an elected person to work for the party because the party is bigger than the members. Now, for us to say that we have to reconnect, the coalition and the rest of the people, when they got into office, forgot the people who voted for them. The very reason the Charandas issue came up, when they were supposed to be alerted and they refused to speak to people who was telling them that there was a plot in the oven. Hence, the government fell. Again, they got in there and they get in over their heads. We need somebody now who has not been there so long and they're getting comfortable. They're taking things for granted and taking the voters for granted. People's lives are at stake here, their livelihood. Education, health, all these things have gone down the drain because we are not a formidable party as we were 30 years ago. We had different leaders and people need to take ownership regardless of elected position. Norton and Harman, after August 2nd, should have started to get back where they forgot the ground. They were both 1-2 punches. Why wait for an elected position before I work for the party? It's like me and this young man here, we don't have party portfolio, but our thing is to listen to people and to talk to them and see how we can bring people into the party. Not saying, you know what, when I get elected, I'm going to go work the streets. No, that's the problem with the PNC. The PPP, on the other hand, regardless of what methods they use, are always in contact with their support base. Our party, for some strange reason, believe that they are Lord and mighty as long as they get in there. And that's the reason.
You know, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Brown made a valid point that Mr. Aubrey Norton was not in any elected position, and therefore it is unfair to grade him on that. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Thank you, Master.
Mr. Norton was the campaign manager for Hoyt when he lost the election.
No, I think he was the. I think he was the general secretary.
No, he wasn't campaigning. Yeah.
Mr. Norton was also in control of the YSM, a very, very important body.
Yeah.
Once you mold those younger people, they are going to stay there if you teach them the correct attitude and responsibility and the value of being an active member of the party. That is where the weakness comes in, of molding people and getting them to be ownership into the value and the direction of the party. We have a lot of talk, oh, we can go and run up a base and go and make a noise on a protest. That is not molding people. You have to let people learn to buy into a system, be comfortable, and let them be the ones who disperse your training.
I think we got the point now. We want to give back Mr. Brung another chance, but before we get back to Norman Brung, let's hear from this younger person here tonight. Onyx.
Yeah. So I have a question for both supporters, and I'm glad that the supporters that are here are the candidates. I want to know what the answer for the question about. But before I get to the question, you, the supporters, may know that the PNC is separated. Reason why I'm saying it's separated by leadership, and it's separated by your responsibilities in the party. Reason why I'm saying that is because if Mr. Norton is on the Central Executive Committee, Van West Charles is not on the Central Executive Committee. He may not want to do or go on the ground like Mr. Norton might be going on the ground because he's on the Central Executive Committee, because he's a leader, he's a part of something. So that is what the PNC needs to get run away from, because they're only working when they have leadership. They only work when they have responsibilities, and that is what the PNC need to get rid of. And I'm glad that you guys are arguing on the point that who had leadership when and who had responsibilities when, because my question is now, Mr. Van West Charles is running for leadership and Mr. Norton is running for leadership, but you also have a candidate that has been in a leadership position that have won elections. What is what are these other candidates bringing to the table now that will win this election, that will win an election for the opposition or win an election for the APNU AFC? What is it? What are they bringing that Mr. North, that Mr. Harmon has already brought?
Good question. Let Mr. Brung take the first bite at that. Go ahead, Norman.
Mark, I want to make this very pellucid, and I think that JR, a beautiful young man, has been caught in a kind of twist in which he became confused. I have to make that pellucid. He became confused, and I'm glad that you highlighted that and tried to, But let me say that we're not jumping and dancing. We have to understand the politics. We have to understand what is happening in a party and what happens when a party forms a government. And as the moderator, I have to say to you that you have been very, very fair in terms of highlighting that to JR. I didn't think he understood it. And I still don't think he understands it. Let me say this. Let me say this to you. Let me make this very pellucid. My intervention into PNC politics and my country's politics is to satisfy the requirements of the people of the country, regardless of ethnicity, race, creed, religion, class, or whatever, that they can benefit from the wealth of the country equitably. I want your viewers and your panel to understand that. So my intervention into PNC politics is to ensure that in a democracy, we have a viable opposition that holds a government accountable. Unfortunately in Guyana, Mr. Benchop, we have had a PPP government over 23 years and today that has proven that they do not have the best interest of Guyana at heart. When I pledge my support to Thea Norton leadership. I pledge my support because Aubrey Norton was never given an opportunity to lead the party, you understand, and to prove himself. The proof is in the pudding, and the Harmons would have been in government and would have lost government by virtue of their tardiness, by virtue of their disinterest, by virtue of their haughtiness, by virtue of their disconnection to the grassroots. We lost government and we have to strategize, and I use the term, we have to recalibrate. We're clutching at a straw, not straws, but we have to come back in the race. To come back in the race, we have to retrace our steps and reconnect to the grassroots and ensure that that connection is electrifying, that we can bring the interest and the fervor back into the grassroots and our supporters to wake up after a year to say we want to fight this struggle. Aubrey Norton is the only person, in my opinion, I will say in my opinion, at this juncture that can cause that reconnection to be a spark that could cause us to wake up and start again. It has happened. It has happened. With the Nortons, with Norton vying for the leadership of the party, the grassroots came out. The grassroots came out and they spoke. They spoke, and they didn't only speak, but they said, we are going to back this man because we have to get back into the race. And the nominations reflect that, and the public outcry reflects that, and we are re-energized at this moment. For JR, my brother, beautiful brother I can see, for JR, my brother, to become confused and dancing all over the place as if he wants to, disagree without dealing with the issue, tell the story. Tell the story. But look, Mark, let me conclude by saying this. The first spark that reconnects us to the grassroots is the spark that will create a flame as we proceed out of the leadership race if we're successful in having the leader that the grassroots have chosen to begin a process in a re-energized way that can take us into an election with a fire and flame that burns with a fury that can bring the PPP to its knees. As I am going to say this in conclusion, no one believed that after 23 years of the PPP rule and being removed by Indians and Africans and Amerindians and people who are fed up of dictatorship, that the miserable failure of the coalition government, the miserable performance of the coalition government, let me say this to your viewers tonight, because I want to say this to you, Mark, if you will permit me. This is a truth on my life. While Mr. Armand did not know about Charindas, while Basil Williams did not know about Charindas, while David Granger did not know about Charindas, while Ramjachan pretended that he did not know about Charindas, you called me, Mark, long before the no confidence motion was moved, as God is my witness on my children's life. You called me, Mark Bishop, Mark Anthony Bishop, called me before all of this happened and said, Norman, I want you to deal with this issue because there is a guy named Sanders, and you mentioned 2 others that were planning to move a no confidence motion against their own government. You, Mark Bishop, this is history. You told me that. And I said to myself, you said, I'll give you the opportunity to run with it. And I did not do it. I did not do it, and I regret today. I regret on my life today that I did not do. The point I'm trying to make, and if I am lying, you tell me I am lying. The point I'm trying to make, Mark Anthony Bishop, who is not a part of the parliament of the political party, told me before this no confidence motion was moved or all of that. Mark told me, and he even said to me that they were sitting down at a rum shop in a certain area in Guyana discussing this move. And if Charindas didn't make the move, there were 2 other people in the coalition that were going to back it up. The point I'm making when I'm talking to your viewers and to the people on your panel is that if you, Mark Anthony Bishop, knew that, how come no one in the coalition was privy to that information? Why? Because they were arrogant, they were disconnected from the grassroots, they had closed their doors, they felt insulated in office under 4 years, and they turned their backs on Indians from the PPP that crossed over. They turned their backs on Amerindians that would not have supported them initially. They turned their backs on their own people. You understand, Mark? That fought and died and bled for them. My work is to say that none of those persons that were in the firmament of that government must be in this struggle to recalibrate this movement and to move forward. Aubrey Norton cannot be blamed. He was sidelined. He was sidelined. And I'm saying this to you with passion on your program, sir, with due respect to your panel, that the movement has begun and the grassroots have spoken. And we have to take the first step because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Aubrey Norton is that first step. And as we move along, we will strategize and to offer to the electorate and the people of Guyana a slate that will defeat the People's Progressive Party at the next election. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Unfortunately, Aubrey Norton is that first step. Not Joe Harmon, not Van West Charles. And I speak with conviction, passion, and from the depths of my soul, for the love of my country, that we must tread this road, and we must tread this road carefully as we navigate from that first step into a journey that we can remove a wicked and demonic dictatorship that is all they need, regardless of ethnicity, race, color, class, or creed. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Norman Brung. That was so beautiful of you. Norman Brung is indeed a beautiful guy, too. I agree with a lot that Norman said. There are some that I don't necessarily agree with, but he's entitled to his views. And it's not for me to rebut that here at this moment. And I probably wouldn't, because people are entitled to their views and their choice. But one of the things, though, Mr. Brung, before we get to Mr. J.R. Crawford, is that when someone is nominated, nominations do not give an overall view on the way people will vote. It's just a mere nomination. And the nominations have not been audited as yet properly to ascertain how many percent or what percentage of nomination who got or whatever. But the nominations are, I understand where you're coming from, but a person can be nominated by 10% of the of the individuals who are allowed to nominate the groups. But when they got to elections day, then the results can be totally opposite of what the nominees or nomination is all about. So I just want to make that lucidly clear to you, but you've made some valid points. Let me give beautiful guy, J.R. Crawford, an opportunity to hopefully that J.R. will answer the question directly that was asked about Mr. Duncan. Did Mr. Brown answer your question?
Not fully beat around the bush, but
JR, go ahead, answer the question because we're looking at the time, please, gentlemen. Go ahead.
First off, Mr. Brown is the one that's a confused older gentleman. He has been dancing and around, and he said everything at the back of his statement that I've been saying about the party. Two, Norman Brown is here touting this grassroots. He never addressed the issue of the reinstatement of two grassroots stalwarts who could have given us a lot more votes.
Yep.
The very person he's backing was part of the problem for the two grassroots experts who could have molded a lot more for our people to have a bigger total at the polls. His candidate cannot bring the crossover votes that is needed, that was there. His candidate is a known person with a personality problem. The issue of a Charandas, it came back to the same thing I said. The coalition got in over their head. They never had a proper playbook. They never held people accountable because they lost the respect of the people who put them there by getting in and doing as they please. They never keep the contact and say thanks to the people who supported them. Black, Indian, Portuguese, whatever, Armenian. So what Mr. Brown is telling me that I am confused, I am privileged to tell you that we were
I
trying
said
to
you're confusing the issues. That's what I didn't see you are confused.
Mr. Brown,
I said you were
Mr. Brown,
confusing the issues.
I am speaking now. We were privileged to tell the coalition that there was a plan to overthrow the government with 5 people, including black folks of the PNC. So don't tell me I am confused. You will try that with the other folks on the internet.
I said you're confusing the issues. I didn't say you were confused.
I am speaking now. You can keep that. When you were speaking, I was listening. I am not a person who's going to be run over. The coalition that you're supporting, Norton had a lot of time and a lot of he could have done. You do not wait for an elected position if you respect the party's gold. And hence for the reason for me to get serious now. This game with this nonsense with the Norton thing. Norton cannot finance the PNC. He will never bring monies to the PNC. He cannot bring the crossover votes. He has a problem with certain kind of people. It is a proven fact, and I have evidence for that. Hence the reason why I would say it in public. I fear nobody. When you were speaking, I was listening. So you're going to listen now. The PNC
Who do you think would bring the crossover votes? Who do you think would bring the crossover votes?
Mr. Brown, learn to respect other people's time on the radio.
Man, don't get stupid now, man. Listen to me. I ask you a question.
You must learn to respect
I'm asking you a question. You're talking absolute nonsense, but I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm asking them.
No.
In an interview, we can have crossover talks. We can have, I can clarify.
That is the problem with the PNC hardcore. You guys don't want to listen to the truth.
They were
I just asked you a question. I just asked you, who do you believe could bring the crossover votes? I'm asking you a question.
You are going to listen, or you're going to come off the program. You are added on because you refused initially. I am telling you what the people want.
Who told you I refused initially? Who told you I refused initially?
You
No,
talk about
Yeah, we all right. Don't let's get angry at each other. We having a discourse. To be honest, we having a discourse. Honestly.
And Vanessa, why didn't you address that? You're talking grassroots, Mr. Gentleman. You are just a blow. That is what you are. Take a
why are you getting personal, man? Why are you getting personal?
You don't know who you're playing with.
I am not playing with you. I don't play with boys. I play with women. You're not cohesive. You're not cohesive, and you're talking a bundle of nonsense. But you can talk now. I will let you talk. I will let you talk.
The crap with you.
I asked you a question. You said North is not a crossover vote, man. I asked you a question with all due respect. Who do you think in the party is a crossover vote? You sound like a PPP operative on my bench show. You sound like a PPP operative. I asked you a question. Who do you think is the person who could bring the crossover vote to PNC? That's what I'm asking.
Chagungun, chaskagungun, teacher. Chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Assemblyman, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Teacher, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Nyasamuajan, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Sister, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Mami ni one, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun. Brother, chaskagungun.
All right. Here's what we're going to do, because we are looking at the time. I understand that this Congress, Mr. Brown, Mr. Crawford, Mr. Onyx, Duncan, and all our listeners is very heated. People are passionate, and we can't blame the people for being as passionate as they are. Because coming out of that cheated elections where the PPP, they were installed into office, a lot of people are hurt.
Yes.
A lot of people are looking for leaders, or a leader that can stand up and represent them, not just by taking to the streets, but an all-rounder and so forth. The debate is not yet over. We will have you guys back again. You guys are no stranger to 107.1 FM. We don't want you guys to be a stranger. Mr. Crawford supports Dr. Van West Charles. He's passionate about that. Norman Brown supports Mr. Aubrey Norton. He is passionate about that. And Onyx Duncan supports no one. He is passionate about that because he himself plans to run for office somewhere out in BV, and he needs either of the three to support him. So let us go briefly, gentlemen, briefly. And no attacks on anybody. Just talk about the way forward briefly. Your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Norman Brown. Your closing remarks, sir. Briefly.
Mark, I want to say to you, and I want to say to your viewers that, and I've said it publicly before in my program. I've said it in the national newspapers. I've said it on Facebook. Your contribution to Guyana and how you would have suffered in the struggle is remarkable, in the sense that if Guyana were a different place, you would have found your real place. You continue to, in the annals of history, you would have found your real place in the annals of history. You continue humbly to make your contribution, and I have to laud you for that. And I wish that Guyana lauds you for that. Let me conclude by saying that.
And before you conclude, let me thank you so much for that as well. And we all have our contribution and our role to play. You have played your role. JR is playing his role. Onyx is playing his role. The listeners are also playing their role, but we must do it in a respectful manner, regardless of one's choice. But continue, Mr. Brown.
Yes. Let me conclude. I want to be brief. I want JR and our brother, Mr. Duncan, to conclude with their views. Let me say this to you, brother. Let me say this to you, to your viewers onto the panel. In this struggle in Guyana presently, it is not a struggle of intellect. It is not a struggle of the normalcy of politics as in any other country. It is a struggle where those who have been oppressed and trampled on from the 50s downward today must rise up against the intellectuals, the upper class, the bourgeois class, regardless if they're black or regardless if they're Indian or Amerindian or Chinese or Portuguese. This trick that has been played upon us with race is a profound trick that caused us to be divided. The real aspect that we have not dealt with, these politicians would have assumed a bourgeois position, a class position, and they have been most constant in turning the back against the grassroots. Against the grassroots. When I speak of grassroots, I am not speaking of black people being suppressed. I am speaking about Indians in the PPP constituencies that are living in squalor. I am speaking of Africans under the own leadership that have been rejected, pushed aside. I want to say this in closing, Mark, that we have come to the juncture in a modern world and society that we have to understand that the complexities of the race and the complexities of class, the suffering masses are of Indians, Africans, who never had the opportunity to benefit from the country. So there's a constant, and that constant is in the majority. That constant is the poor class. What politicians do is go to the poorer class and try to divide them on race and all this kind of stuff. But the most powerful constant is the poor class. A poor class is made up of more Indians than Africans. So my struggle today is to say to this nation, to rise again where there are PNC leaders in government for 5 years or PPP leaders in government for 3 years, that to make Guyana a place that the redistribution of work can be equitable to all, we have to rise against those leaders with that ideological conceptualization to keep constant for another 30 years. And I have begun that process. The call for the grassroots is not black people. Van West Charles, to my brother JR. Van West Charles come from the bourgeois class. He became his son-in-law, and he has never connected to the groups. I say that without water in my mouth. When the Burnham died and the PNC, when I took over and the PNC lost and went at 23 years of the destruction of the poor class, not affording them the opportunity to enjoy the wealth of the nation, Van West never said a word in that 23 years. When Indians and Africans were killed, when Amerindian young people, women were raped by PPP police in the interiors, impregnated. identified the abuse of the poor class, not blacks only. They were killing black people, but they were raping Amerindians. They were allowing Indians to hurt Indians in the poor communities. Men get drunk and raping their own daughters. The system of the PPP never addresses abuses, Mark Venture. So Norman Brown is not coming in the public to stand up for black people only. I am identifying the wickedness of a culture of politicians, whether they are PPP or PNC, that as they assume a position, they turn their backs on their own. They turn their backs on the majority of poor Indians. The coalition government turned their backs on their supporters. Van West Charles in closing, never said a word in the 23 years in what happened to Guyana and in the destruction, sampling of his father-in-law party. You know why? Because Van West Charles came from the upper class. As he retired from all the big jobs around the world and has nothing to do, he has returned to be active in Guyana's politics. But we have to give respect where it is due. Norton or Sambleton remain in the grassroots, and this is the moment, sir, where the grassroots has to connect with the grassroots so that we can begin a process, that we can move to make Guyana a place that is conducive to the growth and development of all its people. I thank you very much for having me on your program.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Brown. Grassroots indeed. Those were the years when people hardly went out and spoke out against what the corrupt and
you did. You suffered for it.
Murderous PPP, and there were just a handful of us hitting the streets, doing just that and confronting, going to the trenches, into the trenches, and our lives threatened and all these things. But Mr. Brown, there was just a handful of us doing that, a handful. And I know who those
You are prominent. You are prominent, and I will say it anytime, even when we fall out.
Let me say this to you, Mr. Brown, and to all of our listeners, that and I thank you much for your contribution to tonight's program, Mr. Brown. Let me say this though, that after I told you about and long before the Charandas came out and did what he did,
thank you.
I even brought that to the attention to some leaders within the coalition who ignored it. I was also threatened to be sued by a leader of the coalition. A leader of the coalition. I was threatened that they were going to sue me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, that is why I'm in my corner, and I'm just.
So I am not lying then. I am not lying.
No, I never said that you're lying. I'm saying that.
No, I'm saying I'm not lying. You didn't say that.
No, I never. I'm saying that I have no horse in the race, and I mean it. Mr. J.R. Crawford, your closing remarks, sir.
I hope I'm not interrupted. Mark, last Sunday morning in the wee hours, the said Norman Brown accused this very radio station people of conspiring against Norton with the launch in Linden. And his writing was the fact that we were sabotaging Norton to let Harman win. I think I got a call about 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And I saw the post as I was traveling home. This very Norman Brown was not vocal enough when Solomon Sharma and Vanessa Kisoon was exiled from the party.
What's this man saying, man? Man, correct this man. Correct this man. Correct this man, man. Don't say things that are not true. The party will be for standing up for Sharma and Vanessa.
1 second. What we want to get
Come on, man.
is 1 second, Norman. What we want to get at is a closing remark. about the way
Yeah,
forward.
he's coming at me and he's giving. Yeah.
1 second,
Yeah.
Norman, please, please, guys. Let's not get back into the personality because it's going to be a fight all night.
But that's how we started out.
I'll just go back in this chair and just allow you guys to go till 2 o'clock in the morning. But Mr. Crawford, your closing remarks, please, about the way forward.
Good, but I want to be.
But Norman on his Facebook page and on his show did call for the reinstatement and has been calling for the reinstatement.
Hold on a second, Mark.
Yeah.
I listened to him.
Sure.
I didn't interrupt. Mr. Duncan didn't interrupt. I think he owes us that, regardless of what touchiness he has, to keep his mouth shut and listen to what we have to say so we can get off the program.
Good. Mr. Brown, did you hear that? Do not interrupt.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead, Mr. Crawford.
We were accused, and I don't care the few persons on the program. I don't care the negative comments. I am not here to be liked. I will tell the truth. At the end of the day, my fight in this country is not for my children. So the very people who are being arrogant and foolish on the comments. I don't have anybody to benefit from a flourishing economy in this country. Now, the way forward is for us to have people who are honest, who can speak to people, who will want to lend an ear, who can mold people, who can bring crossover votes. Do you really think that an R.B. Norton has the capacity to bring the crossover vote? R.B. boasts on this very program, on this radio station, which I would let the very arrogant people know that I do have significant interest in 107.1. Anyway, he claimed that there was an Indian backer for him, Fayaz Musselin. Did you see the post that I put up with him praising and making remarks? RB is being dishonest to his true supporters who have felt pain by saying he has Indian supporters. He don't have them unless it's on a social level. You don't run a political party or social level because you're going to end up with a corrupt party. 2, all the killings that Norman talked about, yes, it's hurtful. It was uncalled for. Who were the people that pulled the triggers 90% of the time? It was black people killing black people. Where were all the leaders to educate them? Why are you killing your brothers and sisters? Today, you have the same thing. It's black killing black. And he's talking all of this to blame. Don't blame the PPP for everything. We are selling ourselves for 20 pieces of silver. Our leaders, regardless of what capacity, were not getting into the communities and molding the young ones. When we got into office, we had an opportune time to expand in bringing and educating our youth and getting them out from the ghetto. What did we do? We got too big. You go to the office, you sit 2 hours, and the minister's still in a meeting. They don't have the time for the people who put them there. When the hammer dropped with Sharon Das, we tried to reach out to them. They refused. And that is the end result. And it's not only East Indian people would have voted against the government, it was black people too. So all this nonsense with Norman is talking there, he might have done his part, but there are sometimes
why are you being rude and talking about people talking nonsense? Are you a jackass? I give you some respect.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown,
you are a jackass. You are a jackass.
Mr. Brown,
I showed
you have shown that you do not allow somebody else
to
contradict you.
This is what I'm saying to you. Anyway,
well, Mr. Brown, as long as you remain in England, I will let you see.
Sense.
When you do come to America,
nonsense,
we will see who is a jackass.
You are a jackass.
Man, you're a despicable individual.
Talking about Fayaz and Aubrey Norton. You are a PPP
you are no good to this party.
You are
people
jackass.
Like you are.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm listening to you. I'm ready for you. I could call you tomorrow. You could laugh and gas.
No, but you guys have to understand.
You can't call me. You
guys have to respect.
You're taking things personal.
1 second, sir. We are both of you.
Sorry, Mark. Mark, I apologize. Let him continue. I apologize.
Why you apologize when you act
I
like an idiot?
apologize to you, Mark, not to JR.
We've got to go.
Stop calling my name. Stop calling my name, JR.
We have got to go.
Jackass.
Referring to your comments, I have to call your name. Who do you want me to call?
Respect for a
Chagungun, chaskagungun, teacher, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun, assemblyman, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun, teacher, chaskagungun, chagungun, chaskagungun, yasamuajan, chaskagungun.
All right, here's what we're going to do. I will ensure that we know how to book our guests next time. Mr. Crawford, thank you so much. Onyx Duncan. Onyx Duncan.
Before you go, I want to apologize that the two of us was started with some proper conversation. I do hope we do have a time there we can discuss. And Mark warned you before with certain kind of guests.
That's okay. People are entitled to come on and to share their views.
Not being disrespectful when others are speaking. We sit and we listen.
That's okay, Mr. Crawford. That's okay. Mr. Duncan, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, tonight has been it's been a very fruitful night for me because it shows me I'm not a part of the PNC. I can tell you that I am not a part of the PNC, and it shows me that, like I said before, the party is separated, and there's several factors that are separating that, because these conversations that we were having tonight needs to be had. If we don't have these conversations, if we don't sit down and debate on certain topics, we won't know where we are, and we won't know what the party is capable of. So just like how we're having these conversations, the people are hearing and they're seeing, we need to have these same conversations in a private, so that we can suss out what needs to be get rid of and bring forward the biggest part, right? And there's a saying, well, there's a code that I would have created. It starts with us as the people to be there for the people. Because if we don't do it, the people won't stand up to what is wrong. We have to do it. If we are politicians, if we are persons that are of interest to the people, and we want to see our country move forward, because it starts with us.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, these conversations need to be had, and I want to thank Mark for having me on the program. I'm already excited for the next program, because this was a very exciting program. I learned a lot, and it shows what we're dealing with. These party supporters are very passionate about what they want and what they want to see, but these conversations need to be had in private before, so that things can be worked out.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Onyx. Thank you so much, Norman. I've known Norman over the years. I recall the first time we met was with Waddle out in Linden, right, Norman?
Yes.
Yep.
These guys were young people then.
That's okay. And I've known J.R. Crawford for over 40 years, practically all my life. He's passionate, just like you are, Norman, just like Onyx is, just like I am. We're all passionate. But at the end of the day, we must be able to control ourselves. We cannot allow these political figures that we are fighting for, and then when we're fighting for them, we add all these emotions up, and then we become disappointed after. We must leave room for disappointment.
Tell Jeremy he could have 2 beer. Tell him he could have 2 beer.
No, that's okay. If we don't leave room for disappointment, then we're setting ourselves up.
And that is true. That is true, sir.
So thank you all so much. The debate, it's all about democracy. Norman has a choice. Crawford has a choice. Onyx has a choice. We all do have a choice. It is democracy. And what we have to do is to respect each other's choice. Gentlemen, when we all meet up together, we will put our political differences aside. We will drink a cold Banks beer, because I know JR, as a good friend of mine, he has no malice. Norman Brown has no malice. Onyx has no malice. We should not hold malice against each other. To all of our listeners, thank you all so much. And to my friends who are on the program tonight, thank you all for coming on as a guest. Let the beef done right here.
Thank
Let
you
it
for
happen.
having us. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, JR.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Have a
you,
good one.
Norman, and thank you, Onyx. Thank you all. I can't wait until this Congress is over. Honest to God, I can't wait until this Congress is over. I really can't. We've got to pray. We've got to pray for all of the candidates and all of the passionate supporters of those candidates. I just can't wait, man. I just can't wait so that we can get back to our regular programming and put some lash on the PPP. Because the PPP is being spared. The only winner in all of this right now is the PPP. They're winning. Look at all the things happening in the country, right? Look at all the things happening in the country, man. Gosh. Pray for the nation. Pray for this Congress to be over as quickly as possible. That is why I stopped putting all confidence and faith in politicians. I stopped that a long time ago. Otherwise, I would have been supporting one. I would have jumped on the mountaintop and say, I support this person or this person or this person. I would have done that. But I respect your choice, and the other person's choice. But let's not get into the gutter. Let's not do that at all. Let us respect people's choices. I love you all. And here's the reason why I don't put all of my eggs in a basket any longer for any politician. I love you all. Have a great weekend. And thank you all for being so patient, because we saw what was about to happen. For the first time, you would have seen a big fight right here on 107.1 FM. A virtual fight, a real fight. But let's not fight. Why can't we just all get along? Like Mike Tyson, why can't we all get along with each other? Got politics and politicians got us want to fight each other, disrespect each other over a politician. I don't know. I love you guys. God bless you all. And thanks to all of you, our guest as well. Lemon has been suspended. Don't forget. Look why I don't put all of my basket in a politician.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. We are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play, and you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours, dirty on your health, dirty on your business, dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.